We travel the world, seeking answers in the shadows. We knock on doors that others have sealed shut, listening for the whispers that linger long after the living have fled. Some stories are so dark, so profoundly unsettling, that they etch themselves into the very fabric of a place. They become a stain on history, a warning to all who dare to listen. We are drawn to these places, to the epicenters of fear. We want to understand the darkness, to confront it, to capture evidence of what lies beyond the veil. Today, we're not just investigating a haunting, we are stepping into a legend, a story that continues to terrify a city. This journey takes us to Zaragoza, Spain, a city of ancient architecture and modern life. But beneath its vibrant surface lies a story so bizarre, it defies all logical explanation. It's a case that has baffled investigators, priests, and scientists for decades. It's the story of the Zaragoza Goblin. This isn't just a tale of bumps in the night or fleeting shadows in the corner of your eye. This is about a voice with no body, a voice that tormented an entire building, drove families from their homes, and became a national phenomenon. A voice that, to this day, has never been identified. We are here to walk the same hallways, to stand in the same rooms where unspeakable fear took hold. We want to feel the energy, the residual terror that still clings to the walls like a cold sweat. The official records are filled with dead ends, with theories that crumble under scrutiny. Police found nothing. Engineers found nothing. But the families who lived here, they found something. They found a nightmare. We are here to connect with that nightmare, to document the raw emotion and the chilling evidence of a mystery that refuses to die. Our mission is simple: to give a voice to the voiceless, both the living and the dead. The story of the Zaragoza Goblin is more than just a ghost story. It's a psychological assault. It's about what happens when the safe space of your own home turns against you, when the walls themselves seem to have a malevolent intelligence. We've brought our most sensitive equipment, our cameras, our digital recorders. We are prepared for a lockdown. We are ready to listen for the echo of that terrifying voice, to see if the Goblin of Zaragoza is still waiting in the shadows for someone to talk to. We arrive at Calle Gascon de Gotor, number 2. The building stands unassuming, a product of its time, but as we step inside, the atmosphere changes. The air grows heavy, thick with the weight of memory. You can feel it instantly. A deep, penetrating cold that has nothing to do with the temperature outside. It's a classic sign of a spiritual presence, an energy drain that chills you to the bone. The lobby is silent, but it's a loud silence. You can almost hear the uncried tears and the unspoken screams that were absorbed by these very walls. This was the epicenter. This was ground zero. The apartment itself is our destination, apartment 1 on the 2nd floor. As the door creaks open, it's like opening a tomb. Dust motes dance in the faint light filtering through grimy windows, like tiny spirits caught in a time loop. The layout is simple, but every corner holds a potential shadow, every doorway a potential threshold to the unknown. The paint is peeling, the floors are warped. You can see the history here, the lives that were lived and the terror that unfolded. We run our hands along the walls, feeling for cold spots, for the source of the energy that made this place infamous. Every room feels different. The kitchen, where the nightmare began, is the coldest of all. It's a small, cramped space. You can easily imagine a family gathered here, only to have their world shattered by a voice from nowhere. Just standing here, our EMF meters are already starting to flicker. The readings are erratic, unstable. Something is here with us. You can feel it, watching, waiting. The silence is broken only by the drip of a phantom faucet and the creak of the building settling around us. Or maybe it's something else settling in for our investigation. We set up our static night vision cameras, creating a web to capture any movement, any anomaly. One in the kitchen, focused on the old stovepipe where the voice was first heard. Another in the main bedroom, where sleepless nights were spent in terror. And a third in the living room, where the family huddled together for safety that never came. The building groans around us, a symphony of decay and dread. It's a language we understand all too well. It's the building telling us its story, and we are here to record every single horrifying word. It all began on September 27, 1934. The Palazon family was living a normal life in their apartment, until they weren't. It started subtly, as these things often do. A whisper, a sound they couldn't place. But this was different. This was a voice. A clear, distinct voice, coming from the direction of the kitchen stovepipe. At first, they thought it was a prank. A neighbour's radio, perhaps? Or a child playing a game? They searched for a logical explanation, for anything that would restore the sense of normalcy that had been so violently ruptured. But they found nothing. The voice was described as raspy, demonic. Sometimes it was a man, sometimes a child, sometimes a cackling laugh that echoed with pure malice. It knew their names. It mocked their prayers. It threatened them with violence. Imagine the sheer terror. You are in your home, your sanctuary, and a disembodied voice begins speaking to you from the walls. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The police were called in. They swarmed the building, checked the pipes, the wiring, the neighbouring apartments. They found no speakers, no hidden devices. They found nothing. The family's young maid, Pascala Alcocer, was the first to hear it clearly. She was working in the kitchen when a voice snarled, "I'm coming." The terror was immediate, visceral. Soon, the entire family heard it. The voice would engage in conversations, answer questions, and hurl insults. It was intelligent, and it was malevolent. The Palazons were not alone in their fear. Neighbours began to hear the voice too, their curiosity turning to horror as they realised this was no hoax. The entity seemed to feed on their fear, growing bolder and louder with each passing day. This is what fascinates us, the interaction. This wasn't just a residual haunting, a replay of a past event. This was an intelligent entity, capable of complex communication. It was a direct, real-time conversation with something not of this world. We place our digital recorders on the floor of the kitchen, right beneath the infamous stove. We begin our first EVP session. We call out into the darkness, our voices echoing in the oppressive silence. Is there anyone here? Can you speak to us? Who are you? What do you want? Now we wait. The voice was just the beginning. As the days turned into weeks, the activity in the apartment escalated dramatically. The entity, now dubbed El Duende, or the Goblin by the terrified public, was no longer content with just speaking. It began to play a twisted game. Objects would move on their own. A crucifix was found twisted into an unnatural shape. Disembodied laughter would erupt from empty rooms, a sound that witnesses described as chilling them to their very soul. The psychological toll was immense. Sleep became impossible as the nights were filled with whispers and the constant feeling of being watched. The entity's behaviour grew more sinister. It wasn't just random noises anymore. It was targeted psychological warfare. The voice would reveal private secrets, things no one outside the family could possibly know. It created paranoia and suspicion, turning the family against each other. It would mimic the voices of loved ones, only to twist their words into cruel taunts. The apartment, once a home, had become a prison. A torture chamber where the warden was an unseen, all-knowing entity that delighted in their suffering. The fear was a living thing, a palpable presence in the air. This is where the physical evidence starts to appear, and it's some of the most compelling we've ever encountered in a case like this. Police and investigators, desperate to debunk the claims, brought in architects and engineers. They tore into the walls, examined the plumbing, and dismantled the stove. They found no trickery. But during one such examination, with a crowd of officials present, the voice laughed at them. It taunted their efforts, calling them fools. This happened in front of dozens of credible witnesses, including police officers who documented the event in their official reports. The phenomenon was no longer contained within the apartment. It spilled out into the building, into the street. Crowds gathered outside Calle Gascon de Gotor, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. The case became a media sensation. But for the family inside, it was a living hell. They were trapped, not just by the entity, but by the hysteria surrounding their home. They were exhibits in a human zoo. Their terror, a spectacle for the masses. This level of sustained, intelligent, and witnessed activity is incredibly rare. It's what makes this case a cornerstone of paranormal research. The constant torment took its toll. The Palazon family was breaking. The father, driven to the edge of madness, would scream back at the walls, his voice raw with desperation and rage. The mother sought solace in prayer, her rosary beads clicking endlessly in the dark, a fragile shield against an invisible enemy. The children were silent, their eyes wide with a fear that no child should ever know. The family unit, the strongest of bonds, was being systematically dismantled by the goblin's relentless psychological assault. They were prisoners in their own home, under siege from within. Suspicion, like a poison, began to seep into the community. Some whispered that the family was perpetrating a hoax for fame or money. Others pointed fingers at the young maid, Pasquala, suggesting she was a ventriloquist or the unwitting pawn of a darker force. The police even took her into custody, isolating her from the apartment to see if the voice would stop. But it didn't. The goblin continued its tirade, mocking the police for their foolishness and clearing the maid's name, at least in the eyes of the supernatural. The family was isolated, both by the entity and by the community that couldn't understand their plight. The decision to flee was not made lightly. It was an act of surrender. After months of enduring the unimaginable, the Palasson family abandoned their home. They left everything behind, running from an enemy they could not see, fight, or comprehend. They chose sanity over property, life over the constant gnawing fear. But the story didn't end there. Other families tried to live in the apartment, brave or foolish souls who thought the stories were exaggerated. None of them stayed for long. The voice always returned, sometimes dormant for a while, but always waiting. This pattern of torment and flight is a powerful piece of evidence. It rules out a hoax by a single family. Multiple, unrelated tenants experienced the same terrifying phenomena over several years. The apartment at Calle Gascon de Gautor, number 2, was not just haunted, it was contaminated. A dark energy had latched onto the location itself, and it did not want to be disturbed. The emotional residue left behind is overwhelming. We can feel the desperation, the hopelessness. It clings to this place, a permanent scar on the building's soul. What was the Zaragoza Goblin? To this day, no one knows. The case remains one of the most well-documented yet profoundly unsolved paranormal mysteries in history. The police officially closed their investigation, their final report stating simply, "No explanation found." Scientists offered theories ranging from mass hysteria to acoustic anomalies, but none could account for the intelligent, conversational nature of the voice or the physical phenomena witnessed by dozens. The church performed exorcisms, but the entity seemed to mock their rituals, its laughter echoing through the halls during their prayers. The leading paranormal theory is that the entity was not a ghost, not the spirit of a deceased human, but something else. An elemental, a poltergeist, or what some cultures call a duende. A non-human entity, perhaps tied to the land itself, that was disturbed by the construction of the building. These entities are often described as mischievous, but can become malevolent when provoked. The Goblin of Zaragoza was more than malevolent. It was sadistic. It displayed a chilling intelligence and a deep-seated hatred for the humans who had invaded its space, taking a cruel delight in their terror. Eventually, the voice faded. The building was sold, renovated, and the specific apartment where the activity was most intense was changed. Life moved on. The story of the goblin became a local legend, a terrifying piece of folklore whispered to children to make them behave. But the evidence remains. The police reports, the newspaper articles, the sworn testimonies of dozens of witnesses. This was not a myth. Something truly terrifying happened here. Something that science cannot explain and that faith could not vanquish. It's a chilling reminder that there are things in this world that we simply do not understand. As we pack up our equipment, a final chill runs down our spines. The building is quiet now, but it's the silence of a predator at rest, not the peace of an empty space. The Zaragoza Goblin left an indelible mark on this city and on the study of the paranormal. It proved that sometimes the walls really do have ears, and sometimes they talk back. The mystery is the destination. For the families who lived here, the nightmare was real. For us, and for you, it serves as a stark, horrifying warning. Some doors are best left unopened. Some voices are best left unanswered.